Hi, I'm Angela, and the movie I chose from YouTube was called A Fatal Plan of Loving. The reporting was done by Susan Lee, and the narration was done by Dr. Anthony Chian. Basically, the show was done on this program called Focus, which is usually aired on the TVB Limited company. And for my focus, basically I said that the Chinese government organized the campaign because of the AIDS outbreak all over the world at the time. They felt a need to educate the people of Hong Kong, China. And in terms of treatment, basically I said the WHO was the government as well as the people of China that they were trying to talk to. And for what, I said the government plays the role of the campaign organizers who are being criticized for being biased and for not passing on a clear message about how AIDS is contracted, how to prevent it, and how to, I guess, maintain AIDS since there's no cure for AIDS. In terms of why, I said that there had just been an increase in the AIDS virus all over the world, so the government was trying to educate the people on prevention. And in terms of when, I said that the movie had to have been done in the early 90s. I couldn't really find an exact date, but I estimated it had to have been done in the early 90s because that was when the Chinese government had just started talking about AIDS in China. And that was when they formed the AIDS medical center, which was also portrayed in the movie. So, and in terms of where, I said it was done in Hong Kong, China. And what I found interesting in this movie was that the way they categorized the group of people who could have been infected with AIDS. They had like the public, and then they had the homosexuals and the homosexuals, and then they had another group for I guess the straight people. And I just found that interesting. The other thing I found interesting was that they actually interviewed for homosexual people just to find out what they thought about how, I guess, TV was portraying AIDS. And of the four of them, two of them agreed that the government was doing a good job in spreading the message about AIDS, while one of them said the government was being biased and that they could do a better job, that basically the print was doing a much better job at spreading the message, and TV was. Another thing that came up in the movie was that people kept saying that the government, for some reason, kept highlighting men, I guess, in their TV broadcasts of AIDS. So I guess the men kept complaining that why men, that even though the government is saying that anybody can catch AIDS, but why do they keep using the pictures of men? So I just found these things interesting. That's it.
In YouTube, I choose the Across the Fine Line as my assignment. This documentary film was almost doing outside, so we can see the 1980s social situation in Hong Kong. Across the Fine Line is talking about the mental patients in Hong Kong. In this documentary film, the mental patients play represent response. Could you? No. Can you?
Yeah, we're gonna edit.
I know. Just delete this one. And
no, because in deleting stick, that's when we delete. Remember what she did last time she was able to do it?
I know.
She removed it, yeah. Just keep going.
Okay, so can you cut this part?
Yes, I can cut it, but not now. We're going to cut it when you're editing.
That was really funny to watching it.
Okay, in this documentary film, the mental patients play respondent roles and was talking about their experience. For example, like they talk about when they knew they had mental sickness, how they got mental sickness, and what's the reaction of their families, friends, or the colleagues. These mental patients wanted to have a fair work situation and got a social situation. I think that is why they are doing this documentary film. In this film, they invited the specialists to talk about the mental patients and how they build their self-confidence. Focus is a truly documentary program because it offers interviews of the specialists and the event characters. Thanks.
The film The Insanity of It All by Tony Chan because the film deals with the effects of war on people. The people in the film are a war veteran and a war journalist in the Vietnam War. The names of the people in the film are Don Lau and Ko Lu. Don Lau was a war journalist and Ko Lu was a war veteran from the Vietnam War. The roles they play in the film are explaining their wartime experiences about different war scenarios and their personal experiences during and after the war. The reason they are doing what they are doing in this film is because they're explaining their wartime experiences as an Asian American and the insanity of wars of all kind. They also explain their experiences with friendship, society, an Asian American in a war against Vietnam, and other mental effects caused by the Vietnam War. It also states how mental illness can bring problems towards family names in Asia. This film takes place in the year of 2002, 27 years after the Vietnam War. The setting is a quiet room with speakers engaging in their experiences. There are scenes of the Vietnam War, and there are also small videos on American television ads on the progress of the Vietnam War. Thanks.
The movie I'm going to discuss is called Left Behind. It's a documentary aired on Focus episode on TVB Hong Kong News, and it was produced by Tony Chan in 1984. In this movie, a group of about 6,000 low-ranking soldiers and missionaries who have settled in Rennie Mill, or rather Rennie's Mill, as refugees from mainland China. They grieve over their predicament because they cannot safely return to China. Neither can they settle in Rennie's Mill forever, because the Hong Kong colonial government has already planned to refurbish the historic settlement called Rennie's Mill into a modern city dwelling. Who is in this movie? Mostly Chinese refugees who escaped the Chinese Civil War of 1949, together with several missionaries who joined them later as refugees. And where is Rennie's Mill? Rennie's Mill used to be called Junk Bay. It's in Hong Kong, and it's a historic place for those refugees because that it was their small China in Hong Kong. Remember, Hong Kong was British, so this is the only place they felt like they were close to China. What was happening in this place in Rennie's Mill? These refugees, they are narrating their frustrations of growing old in colonial Hong Kong, and they feel rejected by mainland China, and they feel mistreated by Hong Kong, and that's exactly why they are complaining, and the only place that they can hang on to is Rennie's Mill. Rennie's Mill bears the history of these refugees as a community in exile, and they will do everything possible to preserve that history. They narrate their story to Tony Chan in 1984, and 1984 has a historic significance in Hong Kong because that's the year that England signed a historic deal to revert Hong Kong to Chinese rule, and the year that they set for that reversion is 1997. Now, why are these refugees complaining? Is because many of them are in their 70s, in their 80s, and this is 1984. It will be another 15 years to 1997. To tell them to wait that long to feel Chinese again is like an insult, so it's just a bit too long. Rennie's Mill, as I said before, was officially Junk Bay. It was named after a gentleman called Rennie. According to Chan, to Tony Chan, in the producer, Rennie was Australian, but according to my research, Rennie was Canadian, and he was an investor in Junk Bay. When the business didn't make money continuously, he felt frustrated and he killed himself. So that is all about Randy's meal.
So in conclusion, my movie was a fatal kind of loving, which is talking about the AIDS outbreak all over the world, particularly in China, how to prevent, I guess, getting AIDS, the cure. Well, there's no cure, but just how to maintain yourself if you already have AIDS, where you can get your tests done, and just general things like that. Over to Rachel.
And my documentary film was talking about like how the society, how to care the mental patients in Hong Kong. So you know, all the mental patients, many people don't like them and very look down upon them. So the society want to improve their social life.
In conclusion, mine is just based on one a journalist and a war veteran in the Vietnam War. To kind of just go overview of their personal experiences as an Asian American in an Asian involved war. And it's very interesting to watch all three parts. It kept me engaged.
Yeah, I'm not in camera, but mine is about the Chinese people who were misplaced by the 1949 Chinese Civil War, and how they settled in Hong Kong, hoping to go back home, and unfortunately they didn't manage to get back home. And then something else happened. They found themselves settling in a small Britain within China called Hong Kong, and that made their problems worse. Some of them escaped to Canada, others went to Australia, some remained in Hong Kong, some went to Taiwan, and they are growing old, and it's all about the frustrations of growing old in a foreign country without your values. So these are Chinese people physically looking, but there are a confusion of people. They are not purely Chinese, like they were brought up in China. They were just brought up in Hong Kong. So that is very frustrating for people.